I want you to picture a very specific and, let's be honest, a very painful moment.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
It's maybe 10 o'clock at night. You've just left a dinner party or a work thing. You get in your car, you shut the door, and it's quiet. And then the replay
The
starts.
post-game analysis, the full autopsy of the conversation.
It's more like a cringe compilation just playing on a loop in your brain. You're gripping the steering wheel, just staring into space, thinking, why did I tell that story about my cat's vet bill for 5 whole minutes? Nobody cared.
Or the flip side of that, why did I just sit there like a plant when they were talking about that one topic I actually know everything about?
Exactly. Why didn't I speak up? It is this universal social hangover, and we treat our conversations like crime scenes. We're dusting for prints of our own awkwardness.
We really do. And we think the solution is about performance. I need to be wittier, or I need to learn how to be more charming.
Right, that it's a social skills issue. But that's why we're doing this deep dive. We're looking at a text that argues we are diagnosing this whole problem completely wrong.
It's not a performance issue. The
No.
source we're unpacking says that feeling too much or too little, it's not about your charisma. It's actually a structural issue. And it has a name, internal anchoring.
Internal anchoring. And the promise here, which I have to say I desperately want to be true, is that if we can fix the anchor, we can stop the 3 a.m. cringe spirals.
Well, the mission for today is to shift from performing conversation to actually inhabiting conversation. We're not learning hacks to make people like you.
Okay, good.
We're here to understand the mechanics of why we shrink or why we overflow and, how to stay in your body while you speak so you can stop trying to manage everyone else's reaction.
I love that. Managing reactions versus actually speaking. So let's start with the diagnosis. The source defines too much and too little in a way that feels almost like physics-based. It's not about your personality.
It's not. And that's so important because it takes the shame out of it.
Yeah.
Usually, if you feel you were too much, you think, I'm annoying.
I'm a lot.
Right. But this text defines too much simply as expression that overshoots the moment.
Overshoots the moment. Okay. So it's a measurement error, not a character flaw.
Exactly. And too little isn't I'm boring or I'm weak. It's expression that undershoots your truth.
Undershoots your truth. Wow, that one really hits home. It feels less like I'm shy and more like an accuracy problem, like, archery. I had the arrow, I just didn't pull the string back far enough.
That's exactly. It's an accuracy issue. But here's the radical claim the text makes. You don't miss the target because you chose the wrong words. You miss because you lost reference to yourself while you were speaking.
Okay, you have to explain that. Losing reference to yourself. Is that the internal anchoring thing?
That's the anchor. Think about it this way. When you're in a high-stakes conversation, a first date, a job interview, talking to someone you really look up to, where is your attention, geographically?
It's on them. 100%. I'm scanning their face. I'm looking for micro expressions. Are they bored? Did they get that joke? Do they think I'm smart? I am basically a radar dish pointed right at their brain.
And that is the problem. The moment your attention is entirely on them, your self-reference collapses. You've pulled up your anchor. You're no longer speaking from your center. You're speaking to manage their experience.
Manage feels like a strong word. I'm just trying to be pleasant. I want them to like me.
Of course, it comes from a good place, a need for connection, but it is still management. And when you're scanning for approval, you start performing. And when you perform, you inevitably miss the mark.
How so?
You either try too hard to entertain them and you overshoot, that's your too much feeling, or you get so scared of their judgment that you retreat and you undershoot. You shrink.
So the too much is me frantically trying to force a reaction, and the too little is me hiding from one.
Precisely. You're drifting based on their currents, not steering your own boat. You're not anchored in what is true for me right now. You're anchored in what do I think they want me to be.
That explains so much. It's why I can leave a party where everyone seemed to be having a good time, but I still feel anxious. I was playing the party guy role, but I wasn't really there.
You were a hologram. And people can sense that. A hologram can be entertaining, but you can't really connect with it.
Okay, so if the problem is losing the anchor, how do we find it again? The source material gives us a checklist, which I really appreciate. It starts before you even open your mouth.
It does. A pre-flight pause. Before you speak, the text says to ask two questions. First, what am I actually feeling? And second, what is my intention?
What is my intention? Seems a little broad, but they break it down, right? Into 4 categories. Connection, Relief, validation, or clarity.
Yes, and these are game changers.
Yeah.
Because we usually just tell ourselves we're speaking for connection, but that's rarely the whole story. Let's take relief. How often do we just speak to get something off our chest?
Oh, all the time. That's just
Yeah.
venting, right? Complaining about traffic or my boss.
And there's nothing wrong with seeking relief. The problem is when we disguise it as seeking connection.
What would that look like? That disguise.
Okay, so imagine you've had a terrible day. You come home and you just dump 30 minutes of frantic, heavy complaining on your partner. You think you're sharing, you're being vulnerable, you're connecting.
Oh, really, they just feel flattened.
Yes, because you weren't looking for a dialogue. You were looking for a place to offload your stress. And that's why you walk away feeling too much. You overshot because the intention was mismatched with the delivery.
And the other two, validation and clarity.
Validation is basically, I'm telling you this story so you'll tell me I was right.
Yeah.
If you don't admit that to yourself, you just keep talking and talking until you get it, which feels pushy.
Right. And clarity.
Clarity is thinking out loud, just talking to figure out what you actually think, which can sound like rambling if you don't flag it.
So how do you fix it then? With a checklist?
You own the intention. The text says, when intention is clear, volume naturally adjusts. So if you know you need relief, you say, hey, I really need to vent for 5 minutes is now an okay time.
Oh, I see. You're setting the container for the conversation.
You're setting the container. And just like that, you're not too much. You've anchored the intention. You've asked for consent. Now it's a collaboration, not an ambush.
That leads right into the next part of this, context. Because even with the best intention, the source says you have to match your expression to the context, not your fear.
And this is where we so often get it wrong. Context isn't just, are we at a library or a party? It includes the relationship, the stakes, and the big one, the emotional capacity on both sides.
Emotional capacity. That is the variable we just completely ignore when we're nervous, isn't it?
We blow right past it. Let's go back to that overshooting feeling. Say you're having a profound existential breakthrough, a huge truth. But you try to share it with a coworker in the break room who has 3 minutes before their next meeting.
Oh, God. Yeah, I'm going to walk away feeling like an absolute disaster.
You're going to feel like you were too much. But notice, the truth wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
Your feelings weren't wrong.
But the bucket wasn't big enough to hold it.
That's it. You poured a gallon of water into a shot glass. It's just physics. You can't do that without making a mess. And we call that mess awkwardness.
I really like that visual. It just takes all the moral judgment out of it. I'm not a bad person for having a gallon of feelings. I just need to find a gallon-sized bucket.
Or you just pour a shot glass amount in that moment. You can save the rest of the gallon for later, for someone who has the time and space for it.
This brings us to dose and timing. I wrote this quote down. You do not need to compress your truth to be acceptable, but you also do not need to unload everything to be honest.
That is the core distinction between honesty and unloading. We get this idea that to be authentic, we have to say everything right now. That holding back is being fake.
Yeah, that radical honesty thing. If I think it, I have to say it.
But the source calls communication, dose, and timing.
It's like cooking. Salt is essential, right? But if I just dump the whole container of salt on your food, I haven't been extra honest. I've just ruined dinner.
That is the perfect analogy. The right substance in the wrong amount is still wrong.
Yeah.
And you only figure out the right dose if you're present.
This sounds great in theory, but in practice, when I get nervous, I lose all my ability to measure anything. I either open the floodgates or I seal them shut. And the source actually talks about this physically, the somatic connection.
It does. This is where we move from the mind to the body. It says, stay in your body while speaking. Because when we get anxious, when that too much or too little panic starts, we tend to leave our bodies. We just live in our heads.
What does that look like, leaving the body?
Well, the source points to a few signs. Your breathing gets shallow, your chest tightens up, and your speech changes. You either go into panic talk, you're talking at 1.5 speed, rambling.
Oh, I know that one. I call it filibustering my own anxiety. If I keep talking, no one can judge me yet.
Exactly. Or you freeze. You just go blank. Both are symptoms of the same thing. Your body has gone into threat mode, fight or flight.
So if I catch myself doing that, the panic talk, what do? The source says something almost too simple. Just slow the breath.
I know it sounds trivial. Just breathe. But physiologically, slowing your exhale is the only way to manually signal safety to your nervous system. You can't think your way out of a panic spiral.
Yeah.
You have to breathe your way out.
So I'm in a meeting, I'm ramping up, I feel the too much happening, I just stop.
You pause. You take a breath. The text is clear on this. If you slow your breath, you slow your speech. You create room for pauses.
Let's talk about pauses. Because for me, and I bet for a lot of people listening, silence in a conversation is terrifying. A 3-second lull feels like I'm failing, like I'm boring you.
And that's the trap. The source challenges that fear directly. It says, pauses do not mean you are wrong. They mean you are present.
That is a huge reframe. Pauses mean you're present.
I mean, think about it from the other side. When you're talking to someone and they pause for a second to actually think about what they want to say, how does that feel to you?
It feels respectful. It feels like they're actually taking the conversation seriously, not just reciting a script. It feels grounded.
Exactly. It draws you in. But when we're the one speaking, we see that same silence as danger. We rush to fill the space because we're trying to manage the other person's comfort.
Right, there's that management thing again. Instead of just existing with them, losing the anchor.
Yes. The advice is to allow silence to do part of the work. You don't have to fill every single cubic inch of air. In fact, silence is what gives the other person room to meet you.
Room to meet you rather than manage you. That is really profound. If I'm just constantly talking, I'm not giving you any space to actually connect with me.
You're just walling them off with words. It shifts the burden. When you stop, the other person can step in. It becomes a dialogue again, not a monologue.
Okay, so we're slowing down, we're breathing, we're using silence. But what about the actual words we use? The source has this whole section on changing the script, specifically about apologies.
Ah, yes, the apology trap.
I live in the apology trap. It's sorry, I'm probably overreacting, or sorry if this is a weird question, or sorry. Does that even make sense?
We apologize for having needs, for taking up space. The source calls this shrinking. It's a preemptive strike. You're basically saying, I'm going to reject myself before you can.
Wow. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a defense mechanism. If I call myself out first, you can't hurt me.
Exactly. So the alternative isn't to be arrogant or rude. It's to be accurate. The suggestion is to replace the apology with a direct naming of your need. So instead of, sorry, I'm probably overreacting, you say, I need to say this clearly.
I need to say this clearly. Huh. That feels very different. It feels really exposed.
It is exposed, but it's also neutral. It's factual. The text says this keeps you neither inflated nor diminished. When you apologize for your feelings, you're diminishing yourself. You're telling the other person that what you're about to say probably isn't valid.
I'm undercutting myself before I even start.
You are. But if you say, I need to clarify this, or I need to share how this feels, you are anchoring yourself in your own reality without being aggressive.
So it's assertive, but not aggressive.
Precisely. It commands a different kind of attention. And notice, it doesn't demand they agree with you. It just states, this is where I am.
But that's the scary part, isn't it? If I state, this is where I am, and I don't apologize for it, what if they don't like it? What if they think I am too much?
That is the core fear. And that leads us to the final and maybe the most difficult concept in the text, self-fidelity.
Self-fidelity. Okay, define that for us.
Self-fidelity means remaining connected to yourself while you're connecting to someone else. Most of us can do one or the other. We can be ourselves when we're alone, or we can connect with others by abandoning ourselves to please them. Doing both at once is the real challenge.
And to do that, the source says we have to completely change how we see the other person's reaction.
We have to separate our worth from their response.
That's easier said than done. My brain is hardwired to think. Good response means I am good. Bad response means I am bad.
Of course it is. We're social animals. But the text offers a mantra here. It says to frame someone else's reaction as information, not a verdict.
Ooh, say that again. That's the one.
Information, not a verdict. If you share something honestly with the right dose and the other person reacts negatively, they get defensive, they check out, that is information.
Information about what?
It's information about them, about their capacity in that moment, or the compatibility of your relationship. It is not a verdict on your value as a human being.
That is the whole shift right there.
Yeah.
If I'm using your reaction to decide if I'm a good person, I'm always going to be anxious. I'm always going to be tap dancing.
And you'll never be truly present because you're too busy checking the scoreboard. The text sums it all up beautifully. You are not too much when you are accurate. You are not too little when you are present.
Accurate is such an interesting word there. Not honest, but accurate, like emotional accuracy.
Yes, internal accuracy. If you are sad and you express sadness, you're being accurate. You only become too much when you add a layer of performance on top, when you dramatize it to get sympathy. That's the overshoot.
And too little is when you're inaccurate in the other direction.
Exactly. It's suppression. If you're angry but you smile and say, I'm fine,
Yeah.
you're inaccurate. You've undershot your own truth. You've broken the anchor.
So the practice is to speak from that alignment, to say, this is what's true for me, check the context, deliver it with the right dose, and then just let the chips fall where they may.
And that's the hardest part, letting the chips fall. But it's the only way to have real intimacy. Because if I'm constantly curating myself for you, you never actually meet me. You just meet my representative, the PR version.
The customer service version of me. Hi, how can I help you have a pleasant interaction with me today?
Right. And nobody really bonds with a customer service rep. We bond with real, messy, breathing humans. People who have edges. If you sand off all your edges to be safe, you just become slippery. No one can hold on to you.
If you sand off your edges, you become slippery.
Wow.
Wow, that's a powerful image. We think we're being smooth, but we're actually making ourselves impossible to hold.
Exactly. Connection needs a little bit of friction. It needs something to grab onto.
So let's try to summarize this. We started with that post-conversation anxiety, that did I do it wrong? Spiral.
And we learned that anxiety comes from being anchored in the wrong place, in their reaction, not our own intention.
And the first step is to pause. Ask, what am I feeling and what is my intention? Is it connection, relief, validation, or clarity?
Then, step 2. Check the context. Do they have the capacity for a gallon or just a shot glass right now? Dose and timing.
Step 3, get back in your body. If you feel that panic talk coming on, just slow your breath, use the silence, don't fear it.
And step 4, change the script. Swap, sorry I'm overreacting, for I need to say this clearly.
All of that leads to this final goal of self-fidelity, being accurate to yourself, not curated for them.
It is a massive shift. And I want to be clear, this will feel risky at first. The first time you let a silence hang in the air, it will feel like jumping off a cliff. The first time you say, I need, instead of I'm sorry, your heart will probably race.
Because you're rewriting decades of social programming, the please everyone code.
You are.
Yeah.
But the reward is that you actually get to be there. You get to be the driver in your own conversations, not just a passenger.
I think my mantra for this week is just going to be that simple question, where am I right now? Instead of where are you and do you like me?
It changes everything.
So before we go, here's a thought to leave you with. We talked a lot about not using other people as mirrors, but what if we actually stopped using their reactions to measure our own worth? How much more honest would our daily conversations actually become?
And if we weren't so afraid of silence, would we find that it isn't actually awkward? But maybe it's the only space where real connection can even land.
Something to think about. The next time there's a lull, don't rush, just breathe. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.